I'm gonna hit record, and I'm gonna introduce you to Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you very much.
Hi Raquel, can everybody see me okay? Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's me. As Raquel says, we've had a relationship with Volunteer Now for, goodness me, many years, starting off with, can you believe it, the World Police and Fire Games. And I was just trying to think in a pre-COVID fit that I had this morning about, can you imagine the World Police and Fire Games? I mean, it seems to be a million miles away, of getting all of those people from all around the world who were free to travel, bringing canoes with them, and the madness and craziness that it was. And people arrived in Northern Ireland without accommodation. They just wanted to play in the games. And it was a crazy introduction to that world. But the relationship we have really is that we value volunteering in terms of civic pride, and there's lots of benefits which I don't need to tell you. But for us, our internal staff get very involved and very passionate about volunteering, and it's a great way to connect everybody through an event. And as Raquel said, then the Open last year was amazing. Through the rain and all the weather and everything, we managed to deliver what the V&A said was the best golf. You know, they do this every year, and they said that Northern Ireland really stepped up to the mark. So we're very, very proud to be involved, and we want to keep that relationship. And it's been very, very difficult, obviously, in the current pandemic, to keep spirits up and keep thinking about what we're going to do with events. And I know if everyone's been devastated, and I think Leslie, who we'll be talking about her experience this year, will testify that there has not been a sector that has been more hit. And even music, looking at the arts and culture. I've actually been in Belfast, where people seem to have taken to the streets just singing, and musicians, because there's still that passion of getting out, and everybody is understanding the need to get back on our feet. It's interesting at the moment that there are some events face-to-face happening around, but sort of behind closed doors. I know we sponsor some events, and I know tomorrow the Institute of Hospitality are having a lunch to celebrate their awards, which is in the Crown Plaza. And it's great to see they've got 60 people in a room. And it's brilliant just to see that we can still get together, even though the restrictions are there, and we don't know how long that's going to last. And I know it's very precarious even today. This morning I took lots of calls from industry, even like should they be open, and that's been my morning. So we have to keep the spirits up. One of the things that I wanted to share was some sentiment analysis, just very briefly. We do some research in terms of the mood of people in Northern Ireland, and we did some kind of, we did a sample of 500 people in Northern Ireland. So 56% of people said the worst is still to come. So that is, you know, this was taken a while ago, and obviously we're probably in a little bit worse than we were when the survey was done. 30% of people said things will stay the same, and 14 very optimistic people said that the worst is past. So we are looking at this on a weekly basis, and obviously for us it's about people coming and going from Northern Ireland. And one of the things that we've had to do is look at our closer to home markets. So our industry are not making money from our international visitors, so we're looking at GB, ROI, and obviously our domestic market. So we've become very important to ourselves all of a sudden in terms of us holidaying and spending money in our own backyards. But actually very, very positively, the youth were very, very positive about how the future will be. And 55% of the people who said that they were very positive about the future were actually sort of under 25. So I think, again, that's probably because, one, they're less likely to get COVID, but obviously they see this as a short-term hiccup, which I hope it is. What people want from us and each other at the minute is they want reassurance. They're very worried about money and the economy, and 65% are very concerned about a second wave. But for us, looking at events, I suppose the future of events, I think, is going to be a very, very slow recovery. But I do think we will get back. I think we have to think of that. Next year, we've been asked to look at 2021 as a year of events and what things we could come up with. And we're hoping that coming out of that, there'll be a very positive year ahead. And I'm very interested to hear about your experience of events. Obviously, there's funding that has been put through the communities, Department of Communities. Again, it's got criteria on it and not everyone will be accessible, but we're very much hoping that there will be more funding coming our way, especially for arts and cultural events. Sporting events obviously still remains tricky, and we see that even some people, I was watching the rugby last week, which was hosted in New Zealand, and it was just amazing to think that they have everybody back in a stadium and everybody was watching the rugby, and it gave me heart that we'll actually get there soon. But lovely if anybody, again, I know we've got a programme here, but if anybody wants to speak to me about any particular funding for events or any support they need. I work in industry development, and we do put on webinars. We have training and development suites as well. So I'd really love to hear what support that you or your organisation might need and how we could help. So that's me for now. Thank you, Raquel.
Thank you, Carolyn. That was really useful, actually. Thank you very, very much. So we're going to move on to Leslie Ann. She's going to give you a wee brief from Trisman as well. She's going to give you a brief on the Irish Open that moved to our shores up to Northern Ireland. Last minute decision, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about that. So Lindsay's just going to share the screen.
Yeah, so as Carolyn said, we've been working with Volunteer Now since the World Police and Fire Games. I kind of worked very closely with Lindsay and Raquel last year on the delivery of the volunteer programme for the Open Championship at Portrush. And it was hailed as one of the successful legacies coming out of that event, one of the coverage that it received both in the media and also from our head of civil service right the way up through government, and the recognition that the role that the volunteers played in the successful delivery of that event were second to none. And I don't think we'll ever move away from that hand-in-hand coordination that we do together for major events. The volunteers are such an important role for us in terms of providing that NI ambassador, but also that wayfinding and just kind of meet and greet that supports the traffic and transport plan around these events. To give you a sense of the scale of the Open Championship, there was 750,000 spectators in across the course of the week, and over 40% of those guys were from outside of Northern Ireland. So just that international reach of all of those people walking through, and every single one of them will have at some point had a touch point with a volunteer, whether it was on the walkways or the bridges coming in, whether it was at the airports in Belfast, Dublin, the train stations, the bus stations. We had people kind of dotted everywhere just to say hello and do that welcome, that big giant spirit that we're so well known for across the world. And it really kind of resonated with those international visitors in particular. And we held a big kind of recognition event for volunteers at the end of it to say thank you, because they were the true heroes of the event. Moving on to where we are now, and events look somewhat different. I work on the major events team, so that is even more different because we work on such a long lead-in time on major events. We work a couple of years out down the line. So this year, everything was paused and kind of pushed back, but then the opportunity arose to look at the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. It was initially due to be held at Mount Juliet in ROI, but due to the restrictions and the travel restrictions in particular, they were unable to kind of move their elite sports players in, and they approached us and approached the NI executive to see if moving the event to Northern Ireland would be an opportunity. We had 4 weeks to turn it around, so quite a bit of pressure, but it was the same kind of core group of people that came together to help deliver it, but a lot more focus on the health and safety aspect of it. We were completely engaged with public health agencies and the trusts to make sure that that element in the COVID risk register and how that was all managed in the testing and track and tracing for the event was all kind of put into place. Raquel, are you flicking on the slides, or is Lindsay?
Sorry, it's me. Leslie, you give me a shout. Am I on the right slide?
You're okay. I think we've missed a few at the start, but that's okay. They just kind of set the context as to why we host major events. The Irish Open in particular this year was obviously a behind closed door event. Sorry, we got a lockdown puppy, so she's just barking out the window at me in case you can hear her. She's going daft to put her outside. And normally we assess major events on the bed nights and the spend and that spectator economics that come into Northern Ireland, and that wasn't there this year. That wasn't something that we're not able to do with events at this point. So we had to put a shift on that and look at the media value and kind of what it does for still keeping Northern Ireland out there on an international level, and the Irish Open does deliver on that for us. I think the anticipated media value of the event is about 4.8 million, which is big. So the 2020 event was held just in September at Galgorm Castle at the golf club there. Now Galgorm was really quick and able to adapt to hosting the tournament, which was great. They have had their own homegrown event in the Northern Irish Open for a number of years now, and have progressively over the last 10 years been investing in the infrastructure at the club. So they were kind of the one venue that was geared up and ready to take on a challenge and a championship at short notice. So Lindsay, could you click on the next one? So we have to look at the opportunity of these events and just how it aligns to what we're strategically trying to do. And Galgorm gives us an opportunity to align to our golf strategy as well, and look at kind of how we profile parkland courses and move away from some of those links trophy courses that we're so well known for, and profile some of the hidden gems. So that's kind of where we come in from the tourism aspect. The delivery structure, which is just on the next slide, Lindsay, was very pared back for this event. It took the same basic principles that we always follow around major events, but you'll see some of the groups there that we would have worked very, very closely with Volunteer Now just didn't exist on this one. So there was no traffic and transport plan. There were some elements of kind of coning and considering signage around roads, but that all fell under the operations team as opposed to having its own kind of dedicated delivery team. There we would normally have like a volunteer group that sits in here as well. So it wasn't there for this one, although there was an aspect of volunteers required to support the delivery of the event, and that was in the on-course marshals and doing the scoreboards out across the course. Now they were recruited through the golf club, through members of the golf club, but they still followed all the same principles that we would kind of always follow when we were putting on events. They were tapped into daily briefing sessions where we could bring in key members from all of those operational groups and brief the team lead for the volunteer on anything that was happening for the day, or anything that was happening on course that they felt needed to come back into kind of the operational management of the event. And all of this was really well underpinned with a really strong marketing and communication strategy, and loop into agreed lines to take, agreed communications protocols, because it was so prudent that if there were any issues that we needed to be agile and be able to adapt and respond to those quite quickly. There was a limited number of media on site. I think it was 20 members of the media were able to go on site. But again, that meant that they were there, so the media were responding to anything that was happening in real time. So as the event delivery team and structure, we needed to be able to do that as well, and kind of manage the media that were there too. Next one, please, Lindsay. I'm trying to blitz through this because there's quite a lot. We again just worked with our tried and tested format of collaboration and working across multi-agencies for major events, and it works. We're getting really good at it in Northern Ireland. We've kind of tried and tested structures, and regardless of the event, you will find it's the same kind of teams of people coming up again and again, and we've just built such a knowledge base and such a relationship base that whenever this came in at short notice, there was so much trust in those partners that we were able just to hit the ground running, and everybody had confidence in what the other teams were doing. Next slide, please, Lindsay. Communication around the event was king. We had to make sure that it was put on safely and securely, and that was communicated to the world as well. The value in hosting an event like the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open is that it was able to demonstrate that we're capable of delivering a safe return to events, and nearly used as a pilot as to this is the working principles, how we kind of start to take that step change to getting spectators back to events. You have to start somewhere and try with reduced numbers and with reduced capacities and see if the delivery model stands up. So while there was no spectators at the event, I'm sure pretty much probably all of you saw at least one who came down with a few friends to kind of watch it and broke the internet, I think, on the Saturday, which was amazing because for an event with no spectators, we were still able to get across on a global scale a bit of Northern Irish charm and just a bit of personality as to who we are, and just keep ourselves out there that we can still do this and we can still do it with a bit of a sense of humour and a bit of crack that we're known for. So just next slide, please, Lindsay. Just a few examples of some of the tweets and the coverage that went out. Our Minister Dodds was there on the final day and was involved in part of the prize giving, and she remains committed to how we get events back safely and securely, and we're working really closely with the department on just what that looks like and how we work with our event operators from homegrown events right through to the majors, and are considering kind of letter of offers that extend into 2-year periods to kind of give that bit of confidence for how we shift things out. Because we don't know what next year will look like at this point. We're hopeful that kind of come the summer and once we pass the first quarter, that we will be in a slightly more stable position to look at the return of spectators, but it is completely unknown to all of us at this point. So it's great to have just that department backing and that kind of support there, that they're willing to work with us as to how we kind of get them back up and running. That is kind of me. The next slide is just a summary of some of the coverage and a snapshot of what the Irish Open kind of has started to deliver for us. And then I have just a very short video to show that just again shows the sentiment of how the world feels about Northern Ireland and why it's important that we keep ourselves out there and use events like this to kind of profile and showcase why people should come back when it is safe and appropriate to do so. Lindsay, if you want to hit play.
Sure. I'll do that now.
Lindsay, the volume is not coming through. We'll try it again.
I knew this was all going too well, folks. I'm not the technical assistant here, so hang on.
We tested this before and it worked, so it's just the sound doesn't connect straight away for some reason.
Hang on. Ooh, something came up there.
Oh, Nuala's kindly saying there's a button to tick to share sound in the bottom left of the share screen function. So when you're sharing screen, but Lindsay, if you want to just flick left for the slide, see that wee arrow? Oh, there we go. So I think on the share screen option, then there's maybe advanced sharing options. There's an option for share volume or share sound rather.
That was on the left hand side. Sorry, folks.
No.
Oh, hang on. Share computer sound. Hang on.
Yeah, that might be it. There, can everybody hear?
I've got very fond memories of this place. Growing up, I would have played the North of Ireland a few times, and you know, my big win last year in Royal Portrush, so I love coming back up here. It's got some of the best golf courses in the world, and it's a lovely place to visit.
It's so beautiful here. It's so green, so lush. Golf courses are amazing. It's just a treat to be here.
Throughout the years I've been coming up here, and you get a great welcome, and you know, the courses are as good as anywhere. Royal Portrush will be one of my favourites. It always has been. Always enjoy playing golf there.
It's always great to be back. Great place, Guinness is good, people are really kind and friendly.
Absolutely loved every minute I've been here, to be honest. The coastline, it's spectacular, and obviously it's got some of the best golf courses anywhere in the world.
Landscape is amazing. Been to Giant Causeway and went to the Bushmills Distillery. It's just there's so much to do here.
We got a beautiful day and we flew up in a helicopter over the Giant's Causeway, and so it's a beautiful part of the world.
Just a very nice place, and you just feel like at home, somewhere where you put a lot of the stress behind you.
I love the people here. They're so friendly, so generous, always in a great mood and telling jokes.
The golf courses are really good, and the town's also quite sociable, so it's always nice for us to come here.
I'm impressed with the golf course here at Galgorm, and the hotel is super as well.
Really cool spa, very relaxing. You can hear the river when you go to bed at night.
Always enjoyed coming to Northern Ireland to play events, and this year's certainly no different.
I'll always be very fond of coming back up here, and you know, it's somewhere that will always hold you know, a good place in my heart.
Thank you. So that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie Ann, because it gives us a kind of a structure to maybe think of events, and gives us the hope of thinking of events with some form of spectators one way or the other. So hopefully you found that useful. And I just want to now move on to introduce Cathal from Northwest 200. So Cathal is going to tell us what has happened this year with the event, if anything, and then what are they hoping to do next year, and how they involve volunteers and the kinds of numbers of volunteers that they involve. And then we'll invite Nuala afterwards as well. I've lost Cathal in my screen. Oh, there you are. Cathal, are you happy enough to say hello for 5 minutes or so?
Northwest 200 takes part in May every year. That in 2019 we celebrate our 90th anniversary, so we did. Again, it takes over 800 volunteers to actually put Northwest 200 on. So they're drawn from all over. I've had marshals coming from Australia, Italy, France, Isle of Man, and UK, and even from ROI as well. The groups are set up. There's 3 paid members in Northwest 200. And the rest is all made up of the volunteer management team. We all take responsibility for each section, from communications, course setup, course build, the communications side of it, the event safety planning. I am responsible for all the marshals, so that's why I put the volunteer role as well, for basically getting the volunteers in. Each year we sort of target an area where we need volunteers and a group of volunteers. So taking the marshals, we need 220 marshals around the circuit, and that's under the road closing order. So what we do is start mid-November recruiting volunteers. January, February, we do training sessions and weekends as in how to handle the crowd control, radios, fire, etc. We get them all trained up, have sessions with them. We form basically a WhatsApp group with them, so keep in contact each week, updating them on what's happening. Obviously, with this year's event being cancelled, we formed a Facebook group as well. So other guys have been out and about, just keeping them in the loop of what's happening for Northwest 200. I think with the event not happening, it sort of let a lot of people down, and they felt the cancelling their accommodation and everything. So we're trying to build next year's better. From that perspective, we've already set our date for the 15th of May. So a newsletter has gone out to all the volunteers again, letting them know the date so they can get accommodation in that book. We have our training dates going to be set for obviously January and February again, permitting. We are looking at a way of doing through Zoom and meeting the people so that we have a face-to-face rather than sending out letters and that. Just keeping them in that whole sort of like a family-oriented group. The hospitality side, we don't know which way it's going to go next year for that. So we're looking at different ways of bringing people in and enjoying the event. Obviously, there's 2,700 homes around the circuit as well. So if there's restrictions still in place in May, we're actually looking at moving the event to maybe August or September and running it then. So hopefully we'll have a clearer picture in the new year of what's happening. And again, we, like the Dubai Open, we involve all the partners, as in the council, Northern Ireland Fire Rescue, the police service, Coast Guard and everything. So that our event safety plan will be in place for that as well. And I like, we sort of would follow the same structure for that. I'm thinking, I mean, from our perspective, it was the income for the event is key to have the event running as well. And that's where we need the spectators in, sort of to make that money in, especially overseas. A lot of businesses around the area, they rely on Northwest 200 as well for. That's me.
Thank you, Cathal. Cathal, could I ask you just how have you found in terms of the communication with volunteers and maybe recruiting the numbers you need for next year? How is that looking at the moment? And did you just go to your existing team or have you kept recruitment open, and what channels have you used for that?
We've used the Volunteer Now page. So we have also we have our Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter. But again, I'm looking now sort of January is starting going out into schools, as in colleges, university, and see what way we can pick up more students that way. Obviously, the likes of the media students are good for us as well, because working alongside the BBC and all the tabloids and papers and that and magazines, it's good backgrounding for them. The hospitality students in the University of Ulster as well. So putting on the events, so helping with that. So it's just targeting different areas. We have bonds with the Princess Trust as well. So we have in NRC, local groups as well, the likes of Scouts and everything. Obviously the course setup takes actually 6 weeks to put up and 2 weeks to take down. The prison service, we've been in contact with them, and the justice ones as well. So it's just moving that whole thing out and trying to get even smaller groups of people to help with the course setup. So again, if the social distance is still in place, that will help that way, because they'll be in their certain bubbles as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yes, so it's just being clever where, and targeting groups where you make the contacts with. Thank you so much, Cathal. I'm sure they'll be sharing in questions in a wee bit. So I'm going to ask Nuala to share a little bit about Breastival that did take place this year in a slightly different format. And Nuala, can you hear us okay? You happy enough to share a bit? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nuala. I'm the chair of Breastival, which is a breastfeeding festival for families who are breastfeeding. It was founded in 2016, largely in response to some negative commentary about breastfeeding in the press, and also in recognition. Kind of 4 of us had babies at the time, and we realized there was very little if you're going to meet other breastfeeding families, it tended to be in a hospital setting or something quite clinical, and we wanted to do something fun. So we established a festival. It takes place annually during World Breastfeeding Week. And in the first year it was in the MAC, and then we moved to the museum, and it's kind of pitched as a really fun family day out, and we would have got like 1,500 people into the museum on the day, the majority of whom would have been, breastfeeding families. There's fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everyone is welcome. And then obviously this year COVID hit, and we had to think about what we would do and how we would, what we would do. So we are completely volunteer led. Our committee is all volunteers, and the team that deliver the event on the day in the museum are all volunteers. Mostly they are people that we know who have experience in the events industry, people that we recruit through our website, or people that we recruit directly from the nursing and midwifery courses at Queen's, or courses like psychology and other similar courses. And we tend to have a small volunteer team of around 20 that deliver the full event. So this year, obviously, COVID hit, and we decided early on that we couldn't do a physical event. And then we considered what we would do virtually. Now, on my day job, I work for Future Screens NI, which is a creative industries project about new, emerging and immersive technology. So when the team sat down and talked about what Breastville would be and what it would look like, they were very conservative in how they were approaching it. We're thinking, oh, we could just do some videos and stream it, videos and talk and stream it through YouTube. And I myself was very insistent that the whole point of Breastville was the connection and families connecting with each other and the visibility and the ability to interact and make friends and talk and chat. So in Future Screens, we use Zoom very openly, but with restrictions, much like this meeting, where people can come in and see each other and interact. So we did this on a much bigger scale, and we had to introduce a really strong Zoom protection policy where people had to be registered in advance, obviously. We used the waiting room function, and we checked absolutely everyone off against the registration list, which at times meant people had to wait in the waiting room, but for child protection reasons, because there were children and babies attending, we had to be very, very strict. So that was the kind of format we had to deliver. We largely this year went back to our experienced volunteers and picked up a few extra because we knew it was going to be delivered differently. We knew we couldn't meet people face to face, and because of all the issues around child protection, etc., we thought it was better and a more safe option to use volunteers that we had before, as opposed to meeting new volunteers. We did have a few that came through the peer mentoring route with the trusts or through the nursing and midwifery courses. So for our volunteers, we are a one-day event. We're not required to do any kind of disclosure or anything like that, but we do ask that all of our volunteers complete a self-disclosure, which asks them to, they have to sign a form to indicate that they have no convictions or no issues or no outstanding legal matters with the police or anything like that. And we keep all of that on record. We do a short interview to get a bit to know people, and we hold a training day. Now, the training day is usually in the museum, where we show, take people right through the event from start to finish, do a complete tour, and look, check out how everything works in each room and all of that. And this year we had to do it completely online, and our training was mostly centered upon how to keep people safe in Zoom, how we would communicate, and how we would work together. So we were conscious that we wanted to deliver the same level of an event that we would do in one day. So it's usually chaos in the museum, but people love it. So we have a series of lectures, we have toddler events, and we have chats. Now, to do all that in Zoom in one day, people would be exhausted. So we stretched it out over the course of the week. And every day we had kind of like something that was like educationally orientated, something that was more about connecting, and then a smaller chat where parents could get together and talk through issues with often facilitated by one of our key contacts. So we had people like Professor Amy Brown, who does a lot of research about infant health and nutrition. We had the infant feeding leads from across the trusts. We had, people talking about pelvic health, and we had a bit of fun as well. We had a comedy night, and we also had drag queen story time. So there was a real mix of events, and it all worked very, very well. And we actually managed to engage with a global audience. There were women engaging with us from Australia, America, India, that we would never have got in the museum. And I just wanted to share a visual so they could get an idea of what the feel of it was like. So at Breastville, when we did the big latch on, which is an event that happens across the globe. So at 10:30 across the world, families are all breastfeeding together, and it's part of this idea of connectivity during World Breastfeeding Week. This year we did it completely online, and if you give me a wee second, I will be able to access the video. So do bear with me, because I had it all set up, but somehow it's closed, which of course would happen. But I think perhaps the thing that we noticed most about Breastival is that it seemed to be more successful in the digital format than it even is when it's delivered on the, when it's delivered like in the physical normal way that we would do. And people shared a lot more information than they would normally share, and other things that we put in place, which I should actually say as well. All of our volunteers were provided with a pack in advance of each event. We only sent out the joining instructions the night before, and we also had all of our volunteers primed with information that could be shared in the chat, that if anyone raised a particular issue that was of concern, we could direct them to support. And because we had peer volunteers who had already been through training, they were on hand to refer people straight back to the infant feeding leads. And it kind of worked really well. But that idea of we'd almost kind of worked it through from start to finish and addressed every issue and every question that people would have. So we had support cards that could be shared online on Facebook that had the numbers for breastfeeding support across the region, and those available to be pasted in the chat. And the feedback was great. And as part of my work in Future Screens NI, we have also increased our meetings, like an events offering, from once a month to once a week, and we've been very, very clear about doing that to build connectivity at this time. And I suppose just because there's a group of people here that are interested in events, we have 2 calls open at the minute where if you're doing something that's creative industries focused, you can access 20,000 for something new that uses new emerging or immersive technology within the creative industries, or you can have 50,000 access to 50,000 to take a product from proof of concept stage to commercialization. And in early November, we will be releasing a COVID-19 related call where people will be able to access up to 5,000 for initiatives to address COVID-19. And there were quite a lot of education, health, and community related projects that were successful in our last COVID call. So if at all you want to engage on that, let me know as well. But if you're talking through questions, I'll try and track down this video. I think it's actually my internet connection is saying that the page isn't available anymore. So I'll have a wee look while you're chatting just to see if I can share before the end.
No problem, Nuala. Thank you. That's really useful. How I came across Nuala was actually because I attended the Breastival, and I think I attended maybe 4 events, and they were fantastically well organized, very enjoyable, felt very safe, very comfortable, and probably that's maybe one of the reasons why they were able to engage even more people, because obviously you could do it from wherever you were, the comfort of your own home, but it just felt very safe. So if people have questions or just want to interact, work away, there's no pressure, but at the same time, this is all about sharing practice. So if you have an event that you'd like to tell us about, you have anything in particular you want to ask, go ahead. I've just realized my battery is running low, so I'm going to connect. I forgot to put the connection earlier. So any particular questions or anyone want to raise their hand to share anything?
Okay, I'm here on behalf of Jurgen Fla, and because of COVID and that, we are actually thinking about cancelling. Now, just over 6-7 weeks ago, one of our people were able to get a contact about putting the Fla out as virtual this year. Now, it was left in the hands of one particular person, and to a lot of us, it was a brilliant concept. We were hoping to launch Friday and Saturday this week, but for somebody like myself who isn't up on the technical side of this, it's been really difficult that they had to come and postpone and defer back to November. So if anybody was looking forward to seeing Jürgen Fla over Friday and Saturday night, it has been postponed. I think reading between the lines, it was more complicated than what we all thought, because it just wasn't a procedure just for showing videos. It was for to be interactive and to include various aspects of some live performances. So if you've been looking forward to it, as I said to you, it's been postponed back. The dates I've been provisionally given is the 6th and 7th of November. So I just want to put that out there. I think what's coming across here is our approach for the following year is two-way. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID. So we're going to learn from this process, and then hopefully we'll have two-way. Either we'll go to the live performances again, which is what we want to do, or we have the virtual FLA, which is interactive. Again, these are terms that I really don't know what it really means. So hopefully in the future, we'll be looking to increase our base of volunteers, because as somebody rightly said, Jürgen Fla is a small voluntary group, doesn't have any part-time or full-time officials. Okay.
Thank you, Brian. I was looking forward to it this weekend, so I've put it in the diary for a couple of weeks' time. And I realized that, was it a partnership with the SRC, with students, that developed the virtual realm for hosting the concerts?
No, Neil was the person. It came right out of the blue. We actually were getting ready to kind of, right, we're going to take a year off, but we'll prepare. And Neil just came up with, he had met somebody in the SRC. I think one of the technical people, not one of the students. But it's opened up a thing, as you rightly said. We've been looking at how much could we involve the students in the future. The idea is just get us through this weekend, and then we would sit down and see how we could improve next year by bringing in volunteers, bringing in the students. But it's, as I said, it's amazing what the concept was. You know, when I heard that you would be actually be able to interact with other people who have connected on. But the idea of using the students for future things would be that what I want to approach to get a virtual thing done on a funding application that we would like to do, rather than having it written. I think the visual presentation just hits it on the nail.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But it has opened up so much more possibilities for the actual group. You know, rather than, as I said to you, now we have a plan. We're still in existence. We're still keeping the idea of a festival alive. And as I said, the next step is not to forget about it, but to take the two-way approach. Either COVID's going to be here next year or it's not. And
yeah, you have the contingency plan. You have two options of delivering your event. Nuala just texted that she can, to connect with her, and she can maybe help you under her program. I saw a raised hand, Cathal.
I was just thinking about the succession plan. It is actually key to actually target 18 to 25-year-olds for basically getting events ahead again. Because I mean, there's a lot of drop off now in volunteers, obviously with this year as well. But I know it's trying to get younger people involved and get them mentored and get them trained up. Because I mean, we have our sort of management team are at 55, 60. They have a wealth of experience behind them and skills, but we need to transfer that now. So I mean, yes, definitely target the schools and colleges to get more recruits in, volunteers. It's key to it.
They give us a shout at Future Screens because we kind of we assisted with the Lockdown Festival, which was done in a drive-in format. And we've been working with various other people who have had to move towards a digital delivery. Fela did like their full festival completely online this year, in a different way than we did it at Brestival, but they did have like live performances online and things like that. So if you contact like Kevin Gamble or Anya, they would be able to help you as well. And there are people, I don't know if you've heard of like Big Telly Theatre Company, but they're a really good example of how they've translated their theatre experience from being within the theatre to being within Zoom, and actually created a revenue generating offering in Zoom that is really engaging and has taken the world by storm. They've been written up in the Financial Times, and they have people attending from New York, and it's very, very interactive what they've done. So there are possibilities out there. It's just about building the connections, and it can be very daunting as an organization to be thinking, oh, well, how do I do my event right now? Do I postpone? Do I do a mix? And certainly we've kind of been engaging with the Ava Festival, the Stendhal Festival, like loads. So if, like, Brian, you want to reach out and just drop an email, I'll arrange a discussion with our director, Paul. And remember, we have like a call coming up that's specifically aimed at addressing some of these challenges, so it might be helpful. But did anybody want to get a wee snapshot of what Brestival actually is? Because I got the video there. If you would like just to see what it looks like when we had like 374 women breastfeeding all together in Zoom. I wasn't planning on sharing it for very long, but if you just bear with me, it'll just give you a wee bit of the flavour.
Go ahead, Nuala. Thank you.
Please do take your feet to the slightly wider than hip distance or to the edges of your mat. Let your knees fall towards each other and try to soften your belly muscles. Take a deep breath here. Good. As you feel your whole self right now, I want you to...
So that's just a wee snapshot of the yoga section before we went into the latch on. So it is just to kind of give you an idea of how people were very comfortable in their own homes, interacting and spending time with each other. And we maintained that format for the full, for the full festival, and people could very safely chat and interact. And obviously we had sought permission from attendees at registration as to whether they were okay with being recorded. And we shared all of these videos online via Facebook, and they've been viewed, some viewed like over 1 million times. So people are really interested in it, and we would never have got that reach before.
Thank you, Nuala. It's really good. So any other questions, or anybody wants to share what they're doing? I'm conscious of time. Yeah, so Leslie Ann is just saying that it's good to appreciate that a move to digital formats has become kind of the norm, so people are more willing to take part. But I think it's fascinating is how can you host events with a revenue stream virtually? That is the next challenge, but there is expertise in here and across the country where you can look for support.
I think as well, Raquel, it's important to know, because we've done an awful lot of work with our industry, even just in our normal kind of marketing side of the house for social and digital content, that people don't expect massive production values. It's just become everybody's doing this and everybody's adapting and using what they have. So it's quite reassuring for event organizers as well that you don't have to bring in full-scale film crews to be able to move to a digital format. You can do it with mobile phones, and you can do it with like what you have access to, and it will be completely accepted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Can I just, it's more a comment really, I suppose, than a question, but just wondering, anybody just interested in what Nuala said there about how successful your online event was. And I was just wondering, because I've been able to participate in so much that I wouldn't have been able to, and with people from all over the world, all over the UK. And it's been amazing, to be honest, and I'm very grateful for Zoom and social media. And I'm just wondering, do you think that some festivals or some events might prefer to go online in the future, even when the crisis is over? Do you think that some things might stay the way they are at the minute?
My thoughts on that is, I think you could see a kind of 50-50. I think with a festival of our kind, which has been creative and it takes in more than music, I think you need live performances and you need the people actually coming to events. But I also have seen that streaming events is also a huge, big, as Nuala says, you reach such a worldwide impact. So I think the approach should be both, not just one. Because that's where we've moved to. And I agree with the Zoom thing. I belong to a men's shed who didn't know anything about Zoom, but because of it, it's broken down isolation. It's broken down people who were shielded for months, being able to communicate with other people. So it's here and it's going to stay, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to say where it's going, but I think it is going to be a 50-50 approach potentially, because it has opened so many doors and it has enabled so many more people to get involved, isn't it, than before. So now we see the value of it rather than seeing it as a nuisance. That's something else we have to do. You know, I have to do the event and I have to do this and I have to do that. But I think it'll be weaved through it. It's hard to know for sure, but obviously theatres, immersive experiences are still going to benefit from that live experience. But I think the technology is there and we're all more willing to take, yes, lower quality, I suppose, produced videos and things just shot on the moment. We're open to that.
Right.
So anybody else wants to feed in, or I see comments on the chat box. Verity works there at Portaferry in Portico, which is a beautiful venue. And you've been doing stuff online, Verity, have you? And have you been able to charge for those, or how is that working on your financial streams?
Well, we're just starting because it's taken us this long to get the funding, to get all the cameras and all the equipment so that we can live stream. And although I heard what whoever it was saying, I think it was Leslie, about you don't need a huge amount of equipment. Unfortunately, if you are asking people to pay for something, then the quality needs to be quite high. And so in order for us to go online, actually it has involved quite a lot of money and quite a lot of investment, because it's not just the cameras and all the streaming technology, but it's also having a much better lighting system so that we can actually create a good image. So yeah, I mean, we are just, and obviously we have to drop ticket prices really substantially for the streaming, because people don't expect to pay the same as they would for live events, which is totally understandable. But obviously we still need to try and pay the artists, so, and you know, all of our overheads and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think, you know, we were hoping that we would be able to do socially distanced, small, low capacity gigs and simultaneously live stream for all of those people that can't come. But obviously we haven't been permitted to open at all, so we have to, all we can do is the live stream, and hope that we that people are willing to pay a little bit for tickets so that we can continue to do that, because otherwise we can't, basically.
Yeah, thank you, Verity. Yes, so it's going to be, yeah, phased in, isn't it? The different steps of involvement of spectators again. So I'm conscious that we've had our hour slot. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email us after this. We will have this recording on our website probably as of Monday, so you can refer back to it if you need to look at it or refer someone else to it. As a follow-up, I suppose what maybe we can do is, obviously Volunteer Now can support you in terms of promoting the opportunities you have and recruiting volunteers for your projects and events. We can work on developing those roles in the first instance and then going about advertising them. We also have a dedicated events volunteer team, so people who have volunteered in a number of events, on those major scale events. They're all dotted across the country, and they're all very much trained in ambassador skills under the World Host accredited program. So they're people that we can always tap into and say, there's an event happening, be it virtual or physically, and they're very much geared for it. They're ready to go and they're motivated. So there is a team there that it's very much thirsty for events. So do get in touch. And then also, obviously, Tourism NI has that wealth of knowledge and expertise around the industry. So do get in touch, and it's brilliant that Nuala was able to offer maybe that creative industry space as well, and knowing that there's funding for it. And then obviously, just if you want to connect with anyone in particular after today, just let us know and we'll ask people if they're happy enough to share details. But apart from that, I wish everybody the best of success. Hopefully you found today's session of value and something to learn from and share. And I think it's just even good to hear what other people are doing and how it might work. And I think it's very hopeful to hear, how Bressville went so well, and then other projects that are taking the same format, virtually, and are going to do it and are doing it. So thank you so much. You will receive a follow-up email, probably with links and a few wee bits and pieces. And we hope to see you here again at a future session.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Raquel. Bye.
Bye-bye. You're very welcome. Thank you.